and James, and we break down this miserable baseball game with plenty of talking points. Guys, I know we're not doing well, but we might as well just get it started with just how are your overall feelings about tonight's game?
No words.
Not great. Not great.
Honestly, I feel more and more like Charlie Brown, and like the Red Sox ownership is Lucy that just like whips the football away right as I'm about to start believing in this team. That's how it honestly feels like every single night. It's like, oh, we win 2 games in St. Louis, and then we drop 2 in humiliating fashion against the Twins. This team can't get it together.
Yeah, every time they have a chance to, pick up some momentum after taking 2 out of 3 in St. Louis, taking 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee, they fall flat on their face. It's 1 step forward, 2 step backwards. So I don't really know where to go at this point. It's not great.
There's a lot to talk about tonight. Do you guys have anything you want to start with? We can go in like order of the game. The play at the plate, the first run of the game was a big talking point. We were all talking about it a lot in our chat, a lot of different things. I made a tweet about it. But I kind of want to get your thoughts about it because there's a couple different views. Should he have cut it off? Should he not have? Obviously, he shouldn't have taken 3 or 4 seconds to throw the ball back to home plate. But we could have saw a couple different views. Should he have cut it? Should he have let it go through? Whose fault is it? There's a lot of different things we could talk about with that. So let's start off with that.
I'll start off here. Lifelong first baseman, 6'6" tall, like a natural born first baseman right here, right? Contreras obviously cut that ball off. Game recognizes game right there. That was the right move to cut that ball off coming into the pitcher's mound. My problem with that play was that double pump, double clutch, how long it took for Contreras to turn to home and throw it home. Narvaez has to, I'm assuming Narvaez was screaming and yelling, hey, either through, or fire home, right? However they want to communicate that. That should not have been a surprise to Contreras as he turns around that Buxton was coming around the base path there.
I think the more I watch it, and from my experience as a catcher too, I think he just lost his footing on the mound because that's such a weird angle, right? Like going up the mound, that even if he was ready to throw, he might have just lost his footing. But regardless, the ball has to come out quicker because Jarren made a good throw. He was throwing through his cutoff man. That play has to be made because if that throw either comes all the way through or it's cut off and fired right away, Buxton is out at the plate. And that might change that inning. It probably doesn't change the game, knowing how the rest of the game went. But at that point, it's a big out to get it at that point, and you get out of the inning unscathed.
I think it's also crazy to think that Buxton scored from second. He was holding himself near second base to see if Duran was catching that ball, and he still scored from second on a one hopper to center field in shallow center too. Aggressive send by the third base coach for the Twins. Aggressive base running from the Twins. But I like to see, if I'm a baseball fan, if I'm a Twins fan, that's awesome. Like I love to see that aggression on the base pass in the first inning. Why not?
You're playing to win. You're not playing not to lose.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it tells you. And it tells you that the Twins are the team with the most wins in the American League, and they're playing with confidence right now too.
As they should be. They're playing great ball.
We got a comment here. I kind of feel the same exact way, at least since like 2020. This is honestly the most boring Sox team I've ever watched. I've watched 162 of the 2012 and 2014 teams. Those were 2 very bad teams, but they weren't boring. Honestly, the Bobby Valentine team was not boring to me. But yes, I agree. This team is kind of boring, at least through 17 games. They have not shown me anything to keep me entertained for 162 games. But
yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. I think there were parts of 23 that were boring, but obviously I think when you look at 23, when you look at 14, those teams kind of had younger guys that were coming up. In 23, obviously you had the emergence of Duran. You had Casas, who was awesome in the second half. You had other younger pieces. You had the Whitlock experiment as a starter. In 2014, you had Bogarts, Betts, Bradley. The next year, you obviously drafted Benintendi. You had Brock Holt, the emergence of Holt. You had a lot of young pieces. This year, sure, you have Anthony, you have other guys, but, it's boring. I think uninspiring would be just unremarkable, just kind of like bland. It's just vanilla right now.
I think another aspect of this question, or like an answer to this question, is coming into last year, we had Rafael Devers, Alex Bregman, Roman Anthony, all on one team. And now we have one of those guys. And then Caleb Durbin was your guy you brought in, and Willson Contreras is also a guy you brought in. We'll get into Willson Contreras' injury later, but it is uninspiring, like you said, and it's a little bit boring. You could use both of those words. You had it. You promised the team of Rafael Devers, Alex Bregman, and Roman Anthony for years to come, at least 3. That's kind of what we were sold on when the Alex Bregman signed 3-year deal. Obviously, it didn't work out that way. But yes, this team is very uninspiring, and Breslow put together a very boring baseball team, at least through 17 games. And I don't see it shaping up anytime soon.
And I
That's
think
not how they're playing.
I think another thing with last year, and then Will, I'll let you go ahead. But like going into last year, you had the allure of the big 3 with Anthony, with Meyer, with Campbell, and obviously through the first month of the season, Campbell won AL Rookie of the Month. He had a 900 OPS, was hitting over 300, and you had the prospect shine. And now Anthony has obviously turned into a star and what we hope to be a superstar. He's heating up right now, but Meyer scuffling a bit, Campbell obviously in Worcester after signing the big deal. It's like when you have so much promise and now you have you really went 1 for 3 there. That kind of takes some of the excitement and hope out as well, because you were, going into last year, you were promised we are building something. You signed Campbell to the extension. You knew Anthony was coming up. You knew Marcelo was coming up. Now, obviously, long way to go. We saw Jordan Walker over the weekend. It takes time. Baseball is the hardest sport in the world for a reason. But it's, that promise right now in terms of building around those 3, only one of them looks like it's sustainable thus far.
Yeah, I think this is also, like we've been saying, a continuation from last year. After getting rid of Devers, you free up all that money, and there was this idea in the air of all this money will be used to upgrade the team, and a lot of that money went to Roman's extension. Great, everyone's happy about that.
He was already here.
Yeah, exactly. He was already here.
He was already here.
But then after this offseason, that was like the biggest red flag. And then we were promised, great pitching and good defense and small ball, and we're not going to win games 10-0, but rather the 3-1 wins. We haven't, where are the wins? Where are the wins? This is a miserable product day in and day out. There might be a good glimpse here and a good 9th inning scoring 7 runs in St. Louis. That's great and all. But when we go out there and we get 4, 5, 6 hits a night, 0 runs, and we're giving up 5, 6, 7, 8 runs in 4 innings, that's a miserable product. That is a miserable excuse. And we still are led to believe that this is still the team. We have the talent. Just got to believe. At what point do we become the fools? At what point do we as the fans buy into this crap and say enough's enough?
I think we already have become the fools, because your question about where are the wins is very valid. Forget where are the wins. Like, what does the process look like? Because I don't even think they're going about the process the right way. I think they're just making things up as they go, in part, after every offseason, whether it's full throttle. Oh, we got to upgrade pitching and defense now. Oh, we need a bat. It's like, where's the organizational plan? All right, you want to build young. Fine. Then commit to going young and let these guys learn at the big league level. But then, you can't just off-put it with, mixing and matching here and there. So, and obviously it's not going to be a team full of rookies, but my point being, they wanted to build younger, build in the system. It's like, all right, fine. If that's the vision that Breslow had, then they shouldn't have been all in last year. Like that's just, it's the reality of the situation. You're changing up organizationally each year based off the market, the payroll, the expectations, the fan base. It's like, if you want to commit to something and you believe in it, and if you're Breslow, actually have the balls to commit to it, because he really doesn't. And I don't think the organization does. I don't know how much longer he's going to be safe. And I think questions will probably start to be asked about Cora as well, just because this is year 5 of the same defensive mishaps, of continual strikeouts, of continual, bad defense. It's like, at some point, the guy who's been there the whole time is going to look in the mirror. Like, you have to look in the mirror at the guy who's been there the whole time and be like, all right, what's the deal? And I think that Cora obviously signed the extension, so I think he's probably safe through this year, but there's a definite risk of him, if the season goes really haywire, of them evaluating his job as well.
I want to answer. Go ahead, Will. Go first.
Just real quick, I wanted to highlight exactly what James is mentioning in just tonight's lineup. The fact that we have to have Cedon sitting, 9-game hitting streak. He's been a red hot bat. Great
defense on that last night.
We have him sitting for IKF starting at second base over. I understand wanting Yoshida get reps and all that stuff. This is a problem that stems in the offseason. The fact that you're not able to unclog that outfield logjam is one of the biggest issues that I had with this offseason, and we've discussed this many times on this show. But then, example A, Cedon is sitting tonight for IKF at second base and Yoshida, etc. Now, look at other parts of our team that now we're kind of not questioning, but now we're questioning the depth of. Contreras goes down with that back injury. Who's our backup first baseman? Is Mona going to take over there? It's IKF. This is crazy. We knew Tristan Casas is not going to be coming back anytime soon, even in the offseason. In November, I could have told you we're not going to see Casas for a long time. Where is that depth in first base, right? how can you
It
go into
doesn't
the season with
exist.
this? It doesn't exist. But it shows that
It probably would have been Gonzalez, but like we've
Sure.
known Gonzalez wasn't going to play since February 15th or whenever they reported. So it's not
Sure.
that shouldn't come as a surprise.
But again, it shows you that it's like this inept ability to go in and actually manage a roster.
Yeah.
I totally agree with everything you guys are saying. I do want to get into the comment here, and James brought it up as well. Is AC at risk? I honestly going to say no. I think no. I think he's the last person at risk in this organization. I think Breslow goes before him. I think they do everything before Alex Cora goes. If there's one guy in this organization that ownership trusts, it's Alex Cora. They brought him back when he was a cheater. He was fired in 2020 because he cheated. And then they brought him back.
With the Astros.
Okay, let me put it out. Let's think about this. Dave Dombrowski hired Alex Cora. Dave Dombrowski was fired. Alex Cora got caught cheating, and then he was fired. Chaim Bloom is the new CBO of the Boston Red Sox. He was told he can make a fake search for a manager. And then at the end, he had to rehire Alex Cora. Alex Cora now outlasts Chaim Bloom.
I think the interest
and
in
now he's
Sam
going to
Ford,
outlast Breslow as well, in my opinion.
I think the interest in Sam Ford was actually valid, but yeah,
I think Chaim Bloom wanted him, but I think there was an ownership directive that said absolutely not. It's Alex Cora no matter what.
Well, here's the other thing, because I think this is an interesting, like AC at risk. Leaving the organization, I don't think he's at risk. I think his managerial spot might be at risk because if Breslow's gone, they might just move him upstairs. Pull the Brad Stevens like that. That could be something where it's like, all right, we don't want to lose the baseball mind. The ship as manager might have run its course, but we want to keep the brain trust here for however long he wants to do it. Move him upstairs to take Breslow's spot, because that's something that Cora's discussed before. The team has discussed before during the previous openings. He's obviously remained in the dugout, but I don't think it would be straight from. I think when he leaves the organization, it'll be after he's GM. Like I think he would go manager, go upstairs for however long, and then leave.
Gary mentions it here in a comment about he's their yes man. I think that's the reason why Cora is safe. Ownership loves him. He'll back up ownership. He'll kind of just ride what what ownership wants to put out to the fans. Right? He's not one to fight back on that regard.
He kind of.
Well, there's a lot of people like that
Kennedy
in the organization,
but on the field.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he does exactly what Sam Kennedy does, but he does it in the dugout with the players, and he gets personal with the players, unlike like Sam Kennedy is with the fans. Nobody likes Sam Kennedy. I do think some fans like Alex Cora, but some fans are turning on him now.
I think the biggest thing with AC is like he's obviously not constructing this roster. Sure, he might have a say. He's probably frustrated with the roster construction and the roster he's given. But here's the other thing is that he's at his best when he manages with aggression, and he really manages certain regular season games like playoff games and playing to win. Well, guess what? You might have to start doing that for a week or two stretch at a time at points to get the mojo back. And when he's aggressively pushing buttons, making moves, making personnel decisions like that, that's when he's at his best. We haven't seen that this year, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I think we might start to see that soon when they get back to Fenway on Friday night against Detroit, because it's getting to a point where they're 6-11 right now. Whether they're 7-11 or 6-12 going back to Fenway, it's not great. You can't continue to lose, multiple series, multiple games like that, because at a certain point, sure, baseball's a long season. You have 140 games left. You have 100 games left. You have 80 games left, whatever it may be. At a certain point, you run out. Like at a certain point, you find yourself 8 games back of a division, with 90 to go, and that's not salvageable. So it's unhealthy to keep saying it's a long season. We're going to claw our way back. Well, at a certain point, you run out of games, and so
I agree. We're already 15 minutes in, so I think we should go to our next topic. I have a big list here that I kind of want to talk about, and we'll go in order. But there is a comment here from Steven about Murakami. I'm going to go into our third baseman now and what he did today. Roman Anthony has a 2-out single.
So Nick's going to bring up Durbin bunting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bunting.
Yeah. Caleb Durbin bunts for a hit, and then he does it on his own in 2 outs, and it's one of the dumbest things I've seen on a baseball field in a long time. It was early in the game. It made no sense. Caleb Durbin's not especially fast. I mean, he's probably above like the midway point. He's probably in like the 60 to 70 percentile, but he's not a guy who's bunting for a hit early in the game, protecting your best hitter, and in the 2-hole. 2-hole is supposed to be your best hitter on the roster. we could bring up the comment from Steven here about how is Murakami not on this roster. I don't think he was a guy the Red Sox really had much interest in, but going at it right now, I think I'd rather have him and his upside over a guy like Caleb Durbin at third base every single day. I know Murakami is going to provide what this Red Sox team needs, which is power. They have probably, I don't know what it is right now, but I was talking about it earlier. Just this team has no extra base hits in them. They haven't had it all season long. And a guy like Murakami at least provides extra base hit potential. This roster needs a guy like him. I know it's not going to happen, and he's probably going to get a big payday now that he's shown he's going to perform in the major leagues. But even then, I'd rather have had the boom bust profile of Murakami than the profile of Caleb Durbin, who's going to bunt in your 2-hole.
I mean, forget Murakami. Where's Pete Alonso? And I know he's gotten off to a slower start in Baltimore, but you talk about first base depth. Well, this is a guy who's played over 150 games every season of his major league career, aside from the short in 2020 when he played 57 out of 60 games. It's a guy who provides power. It's a guy who posts. It's a guy who's a leader. Talk about leadership. Talk about accountability. He's a leader, and guess what? He's getting going. It's been 15, 16 games, whatever it's been. He's not going to hit 180 the entire season. We saw him bust out last night with the homer with another extra go-ahead double on Sunday. Pete is going to be fine. Like, that should be the question. Murakami, sure, fine. But, like, where's Alonso? Because that solves your first base issue. Alonso posts every day.
And not only that, too, Pete Alonso would have solved the issue of scoring with runners in scoring position. One of our biggest flaws last year. He led the league in scoring with runners in scoring position with 2 outs last year in all of baseball. And ownership's going to let him walk over 1 year at a very affordable contract, too.
And to a division rival, no less. To a team in Baltimore who new ownership, they're spending, good for them. But like this, it's not like you let them walk to Arizona or the Dodgers just said, we're going to pay you too. And you couldn't do anything about it. Like, you let them walk, you could outbid the Orioles. Like, and that's the Orioles gave him a very fair deal and a very good deal. This isn't me saying the Orioles cheaped out on him. It's more about like, this is the, how do you let him go to a division rival? And also, he would have been Mark McGwire at Fenway Park with the Green Monster. He would have hit 50 double. He would have gone 50-50 with doubles and home runs.
That bomb that he hit last night, until in our chat mentions it, that was an absolute moonshot. That's the kind of energy this lineup and this roster needs. And again, we discussed like a broken record, losing Bregman over a no trade clause, and then losing Alonso over effectively 1 year is both arrestable offenses for any baseball ownership.
Absolutely. And speaking of the former Mets, the Mets Alonso, we have a comment from Mtrey B312. We're close to Consul territory. So if you're following KFC and his consuls with the Mets, we might not be there yet, but it's, for some Red Sox fans, I'm sure they're pressing the panic button already.
Do you have any more comments about the foolish display of a bunt that early in a game by your 2-hole hitter? I kind of agree. It's just the guy that kind of lacks confidence too. Why are we bunting in that situation? I don't have much else to say besides.
I mean, clearly it was on his own. He was trying to do too much, and with 1 out, maybe I can see it. Obviously, with no outs, you do whatever. But there's no explanation for it. You're not, sure. Okay, what if Yoshida pops out? Then Contreras, he's not getting up. That's the problem. So with 2 outs, it makes zero sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I guess the next topic tonight is Jarren Duran and then the outfield situation all over again, because we're going to have this topic on every single show all season long, the lineup construction and the outfield logjam. But tonight, Jarren Duran did something that we need to talk about, unfortunately, and it's happened again. Another interaction with a fan where after his ground out, I don't remember which inning it was. I think it was his second to last at bat.
Fifth.
Yeah, either his second or his third at bat in the game. He grounded out to the right side. He was hustling as hard as he possibly could. I don't know exactly what happened, but a fan must have said something to him, and he flipped him off running back to the dugout. The cameras obviously caught him. Red Sox Twitter is freaking out. There's a lot of Duran haters. There's a lot of Duran lovers out there. But you guys, this is something that he needs to mature and get better on, and he's had a lot of chances to do it. But we can't keep seeing this from a guy like Jarren Duran. If he's not producing like he is, he cannot be flipping off fans for no reason. We don't know what happened yet. We might not get an explanation for it, but this can't happen over and over again. He has a reputation, and it looks bad, especially when you have a logjam in the outfield and you need a guy that needs to sit on the bench. If Jarren Duran is flipping his middle finger around at people, he's the guy that needs to sit.
That's a fair point. You think that, obviously with his previous incident, losing out on a second consecutive 162 would kind of teach him that lesson for Mr. I want to play every game, right? Plus, this tells every team, like to me, this tells me he's not locked in, right? He can't.
All right.
Focus in on the game.
According to Chris Smith, Jarren Duran says he flipped a fan off tonight because the fan told him to go kill himself. So there's the leak, not the leak. There's the answer from the clubhouse. And there's the exact tweet from Smitty. Jarren Duran said he flipped off the fan because the fan told him to go kill himself. Obviously, no place for that. We saw that in Cleveland last year. No place for it. But
yeah, we saw that in Cleveland last year in between innings, and it's unfortunate that still gets brought up and that's used.
Not great.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I wish I knew that about a minute or two ago, and we could have had the information first before we kind of went nuts. But obviously, it's still something he needs to.
Your overarching
it still can't happen.
Your overarching point is that just block everything out and don't worry about anything that's set off the field.
I agree. I mean,
point.
That's
what you're saying.
I also think it gets down to the point where there was about 12 fans in the stands today, and you hear it a lot more when there's that little amount of people in the stands. It probably gets said to him every single game, and he doesn't hear it because there's so many different things in your ears. There's 30,000 people in the stands at Fenway Park every single day or more. Tonight there was like 12. So he heard every single thing. He could hear every single conversation, and he needs to be able to put into his mind, hey, they really don't mean that about me. They don't know me. Who really cares? But obviously it's happened many times. It shouldn't have happened tonight. The fans shouldn't have said that, but I think that's probably why the lack of people in the stands. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to get into over these last two nights, because the bad habits that are starting to creep back into this team, the lack of walks. They walked 4 times last night. Fine, it was a blowout. They walked once tonight. Early in the season when they were losing ball games, they weren't walking. They were striking out a lot. And what's happened these last 2 nights? They haven't been walking. They punched out 10 times last night, and tonight they punched out another 12 times. So, Micah Bell was awesome. He was great tonight. But the lack of contact, the lack of getting on base is killing this team.
We can't come into these games facing starting pitchers that have a 2+ whip and making them look like Cy Young Award winners. I mean, that's now 2 in the last 5 games between Dustin May and then Abel tonight. Unreal. Abel was very good, but I think a lot of that
Philly's top prospect too. Like he's
absolutely.
Kid, like.
But again, I think a lot of that also came from our inability to work the count, work deep counts, and make hard contact. Again, we scored 6 runs yesterday. Like you said, 4 walks. That 4 walks did not score the 6 runs by itself. But when we do walk more, we score more runs. Simple as that. 1 walk tonight to 12 strikeouts. 12? Come on. That's not a major league product. 22 times in 2 games? Come on.
Again, it's the process and roster construction. What we were promised would be different from last year. And it's like, I think you could live with more of the K's if you had more power and you had more pop and you're averaging more than 5 runs a game. And obviously that's not happening. So it's like, what's all the swing and miss for if you're going to go out and score like 2.5 runs a game?
I do think Mick Abel was just really, really good tonight. They didn't have very many good at bats, but
every pitcher's really good against this offense.
That's my point.
I agree. I agree. Yes, they could have done more, but I do think Micah Bell did deserve some credit tonight. But yeah, Sonny Gray, we could talk about it here. He brings it up that we didn't talk about the pitching. If you want to bring up Sonny Gray, he just was a pretty down outing altogether. Nothing great, nothing bad, nothing horrible. It wasn't Garrett Crochet bad, but I don't have much about Sonny Gray tonight. Just the whiffs were a little bit higher than he has had in the past last 3 outings, but it didn't really matter. He wasn't throwing strikes. The ground balls, he was getting hit a lot harder. He had 9 hits, which is a lot in only 4 innings. I don't know. I don't have much on Sonny Gray tonight.
Yeah, Middlebrooks brought it up on the broadcast, which is a good point. Like, obviously, Gray is more of a contact pitcher, especially with the ground balls. Not as high strikeouts, but, it's not like he's striking out, 2 or 3 guys in the outing. Obviously, he only struck out once tonight, but Gray is at his best when he's not, just pitching to contact and completely avoiding the strikeouts. And yes, he had more whiffs, but only 1 strikeout. I think he's got to be able to rack up the strikeouts a little bit more if he wants to be at his best. And that's really when you see his pitches and his pitch his pitch variety going at his best, is when he's striking guys out, he's keeping guys off balance, getting them to weekly rollover. That's when he's at his best. The one strikeout, I think, is indicative of the lack of control overall tonight.
It's same can be said about Suarez too. Another member of our starting rotation, another guy who induces soft contact versus strikeouts. His last start, best start of the season, and he's still racked up, I believe, 6 strikeouts. Yeah, and for a guy who isn't necessarily aiming for strikeouts. But yeah, Sonny Gray just didn't have it tonight, and you kind of knew it from the get-go too. That one run the Twins scored in the first, we already touched upon how that was scored and whatnot. But once they scored that first run, it was almost, it felt like 10. It just felt like, okay, that's the kind of game we're going to be watching tonight.
Yeah, and his pitch usage tonight, Savant doesn't have it up yet, so I will. This was just going off of last game, but if the cutter was the most used pitch again, I mean, Bailey has got to come up with something that every pitcher using their cutter the most.
Yep.
I had 2 more talking points for the up right here. I guess we'll start with this, but the ABS system and the Red Sox lack of being good at it. That's my initial thing, was the Monasterio challenge of a pitch right down the middle. Obviously, you have to use them. It didn't really matter, but that was one of the worst challenges I've seen, at least the worst one by a Red Sox player. But Jerry brings up a pretty good point, how bad the Red Sox are with the ABS challenge reviews, how the lack of using in them compared to other teams. The Twins were like the most used team and used the most of them in the league, where the Red Sox used the least amount of them. They said a stat tonight where they used 1 in the last 8 games, and I just that's actually true. I haven't seen them use it in a while, since we kind of ridiculed them for using it for no reason early in the game. They kind of went from being totally reckless with it to not using it at all, and they need to figure out a strategy, and not having a strategy at all is the worst possible thing they could do going forward.
Monasterio's challenge might have been the worst challenge across all of baseball this year. I mean, that was clearly a strike.
I think there was one where Will Smith might have messed up when Ohtani scratched the back of his head and Will Smith tapped, but it was a ball in the
worst intentional.
That was like an accident one.
Yeah.
Will Smith looked at Ohtani and was like, "Do you want it?" I don't know.
Jazz Chisholm has had some pretty egregious.
Well, Jazz Chisholm doesn't know the rules of baseball, as he openly admitted after this weekend in Tampa. So,
but he's gonna have a 50-50 season, guys. He's gonna have a 50-50 season, so he's fine.
That's right.
I will say, yes, Mona's ABS challenge today was awful. I want to know, why are we challenging any ABS challenges in the first inning with, I believe it was either 1 or no outs after Buxton's single up the middle, right? I believe it was
no outs. Then it would have been no outs.
Yeah, so it'd be no outs, and we're using ABS challenges in the first inning before any runs scored at all. I think that's a whole separate conversation to have too, is when we use these ABS challenges. I don't want to see it in the first inning. You don't know how valuable that's going to be later on in the game. I know that might be a hot take.
And well, the thing is, you have to be 150% right if you're going to use that. It's just like in football, in the first drive of the game, you're not going to challenge maybe a 50-50 ball, whether a guy was out of bounds, whether he caught it. You have to be sure he didn't catch it. I'm going to use one of my 2 challenges now, because then you remain 2 of 2.
Exactly.
Same deal here. It's like, you have to be sure, because if you're wrong, you burn 1 for good. Obviously, if there's bases loaded, nobody out in the first, and the game's on the ropes, sure. But in a situation like that, you have to be 100% sure.
But with our team's history of ABS challenges so far this season, I saw that. I'm like, what? Why? Yeah. Why? Yeah. If I'm AC, I'm going in there, guys, and I'm like, no one challenges first inning. Come on.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
And next and the last thing I really had tonight, which could be the worst and the most important thing, is Willson Contreras, and he left the game early with injury. It's the whole reason why Monasterio's in the game at all. I think we do have some comments, and that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. I think we do have some updates from Cora. I had it up. Give me 1 second.
I'm getting those right now.
Yeah, basically, we'll see how he comes in tomorrow. It's lower back tightness. We don't think it's anything serious, but we'll play it day to day. So there's a chance he'll start tomorrow. There's a chance he doesn't. I'm assuming with a day game after a night game, he'll be out of the lineup, and then a day off on Thursday. So I just assume he'll have 2.5 days off. And then we'll see him again when we get back home on Friday. But if he's back in the lineup tomorrow, then it's totally fine, and I'd be happy with that. So I'm relieved to hear that it's not going to be an IL stint, because you guys brought it up earlier in the day that if we have an absence at first base, we're kind of screwed completely. So Willson Contreras is probably the most important hitter on this team right now, because Roman Anthony is finally starting to break out of his early season slump.
Yeah,
We've seen a couple
fine.
good. Yeah, we're going to see a couple good swings. He's had a last 2 or 3 good days here. But yeah, Willson Contreras is your next best hitter, and you need him on this team.
I think also it's important to note too, everywhere else, maybe besides catcher, obviously between Navarez and Connor Wong, first base with Contreras is, I would argue, the largest jump from Contreras to number 2 on that list. If he's out for any longer than tonight and tomorrow into the off day, like that's a huge loss for this roster.
Well, maybe like it would be smart to put Christian Campbell down there in Worcester or something, not in the outfield where we have 9 guys on our active roster that can play in the outfield. And I'm not saying they obviously tried Campbell at first base last year and didn't even get to play him there in Atlanta because they didn't like how he progressed working out. My point remains, Christian Campbell shouldn't be in the outfield, and if he continues to hit like he is in Worcester and forces his hand, first base would be a spot where you could spell Contreras a couple of days of the week.
Hey, they were trying out Yoshida at first base last July. You never know.
Tony Mass is going to be right. Anthony's going to be a first baseman before we know it, or we'll get ready to learn our 2026 version of Dom Smith and Garrett Cooper and Abraham Toro, just some random veteran that we can sign if something happens to Willson.
Is Travis Shaw still swinging a bat?
Oh,
is
mayor.
It not Nick Sogard?
We love the mayor. It probably is Sogard.
It's Sogard or IKF, and I think Sogard's the better player right now. So that's who I'll say who I would like to pick if it's one of them. But right now, I just hope Willson Contreras misses no time and he's back at least like the latest Friday, and we're good to go with him. But it's scary to see that when he leaves the ball game, it's going to be scary all season long because we have no depth there until Casas comes back. And with the reports today, we don't think we're going to see Casas for a very long time. I mean, that's something we could talk about because we had 2 bad updates on 2 pretty important players in Tristan Casas and Cutter Crawford today. And we had Johan Oviedo move to the 60-day DL or IL. Now it's called IL. But yes, that's 3 injury reports that we had today that were all negative. So that's very discouraging going forward, and everything's going wrong at the moment.
Yeah, the Oviedo, I wasn't surprised by that. We knew that he was going to be taking a long time off, and like that didn't shock me as much as everyone else. Franchy Cordero,
respect Franchy.
You won't find a bigger fan in Boston of Franchy Cordero than myself. I love Franchy. He's the man.
That guy was so infuriating to watch because he like that homer in Philly that he hit was like 475 feet, the walk-off grand slam against Seattle. But then he'd have stretches where he couldn't hit a beach ball, like he couldn't hit a beach ball into the ocean if he was standing on the sand.
Insufferable player, but really nice guy too.
Sure.
Different story for a different time, but yeah, he was great.
Yeah. What your point on Oviedo?
Oviedo, we knew he was going to be out for a while.
Yeah.
Anytime you see your specialist that did your Tommy John, it's gonna be a while. No surprise there. I do think that Casas injury news is devastating. It was diagnosed with an abdominal strain. That's never fun. It's unrelated to his rib injury from, I believe, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Healy said it was unrelated to his rib injury from 2 years ago, and he shut down till he feels better. I don't think this is like, oh, I don't feel well. Like this is a legitimate injury, and like if he tries to play through it, it's gonna get messed up even more. And it really is. It really is sad. Like that so much of his 2026 in the last 3 years are just going to be taken away and eaten up because of injury. And like he's just had to ramp up and then stop and then ramp up and then stop. He's never been able to like get to that final point and then go back down. It's always been at the very beginning and then he can't get going. I think that's the worst part. And going on to our point earlier, I mean, with if something does happen in Contreras, there's zero depth organizationally. So
the worst updates the Cutter Crawford one, because I think he was the most logical guy to take over that Slayton job. We don't have an update in Slayton yet, but I thought Cutter Crawford, if he wasn't going to slot into the rotation, at the moment he doesn't have a spot in the rotation. But if he did, he was going to go into the bullpen, take that Slayton role, maybe a 6th, 7th inning kind of guy, and he would have been a really important piece going forward for this team. But what it was forearm or elbow inflammation or tightness. That never sounds good, but I guess Cora wasn't super concerned.
Yeah, mild soreness in his right elbow. That was the report from multiple folks today. That's what Smitty said in his article. So Cora said nothing to be too alarmed. and talking to head trainer Brandon Henry, just making sure we go through the right steps, and hopefully Cutter gets back next week. So obviously there was no reason initially. That ended up being the reason. Hopefully within a week or two, he's back to throwing and back to getting in games. And like you said, helping out the bullpen in any way he can.
It's tough too when Patrick Sandoval's allowing 5 runs in his, I believe, second start in AAA. It's like we need Cutter Crawford back more so than ever.
Until we see Patrick Sandoval. I'm trolling. Don't worry, I'm trolling. But he is still out there, Atlanta Braves.
I think we had an update on him today that there's multiple teams interested in him.
Yeah, there are.
It was like the Padres and
I want to say Colorado was interested in him.
Yeah, I honestly don't know, but hopefully he gets something done eventually.
Yeah.
He deserves it too. I mean, he was crushing at the end of the last year, and
Cubs and Padres interested in Lucas. So yeah, we'll see. But I don't know. I don't have much else for tonight. Just flush it and hopefully win tomorrow. If not, you're staring down a nasty crowd Friday night at Fenway, and you're staring down Scooble on Saturday. Not looking great.
I was going to say, before the St. Louis series, going into St. Louis, I was saying that the next 6 games you had to come out 4-2, and now we're like best case scenario, you come back to Fenway 3-3. Best case scenario,
yeah.
But James, you're right. If Friday comes around and we're 2-4 on this road trip, oh man, it's going to be insane.
Yeah, not great.
I guess my only thoughts tonight are Jack Anderson. Major league debut was very, very good. Struck out the side in his first inning ever. I was very happy for him. Very happy to see that. So at least there was some silver lining in a very, very bad baseball game that we watched tonight. Cool. If a lot of Red Sox fans turned it off, they missed that moment. So if you guys do come back and look the box score and you see Jack Anderson with 3 innings and 4 or 5 Ks or whatever it was a very good outing, and I'm very happy to see that. So that's my final thought. I don't have anything else. Do you guys have 1 or 2 final thoughts?
He has some great stuff. The box score will show that he gave the 1 homer to the best hitter on the Twins. I loved everything I saw from Jack Anderson, and that was the highlight of the entire series for me. Let's see if tomorrow can bring something else to look forward to.
Yeah, Anderson was great tonight, and a point that Chris Cotillo made that I just wanted to make reference to. He's the 4th Red Sox pitcher to make their major league debut this year. So in an area where we thought we had some depth in the bullpen, it's already the 4th guy in 17 games now, 16 games to make his debut. So, obviously you're shuffling guys in and out, but it's still that's a lot early on for a lot of young guys. So, hopefully, they can stop as much roster shuffling and just get through with a consistent set of guys out there.
And that's a byproduct of your starting pitchers, which you're supposed to be elite, not going the distance and using up your bullpen too.
Yeah, if you're gonna build the team around starting pitching and defense and not the offense, then you better pitch. And this team certainly has not. So,
yep,
totally agree, guys. Unfortunately, it's another loss tonight, but we'll be back again soon, breaking down this Red Sox team. Hopefully, we have some better games coming up, but. Thanks, guys, for watching. This episode will be up on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and we're also live on Twitter and YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you soon.